Good evening. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend this next hour together. You know it. I am hoping that you're safe and well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. We've got a great show coming up for you tonight. The Grammy Award winning, multi talented singer Regina Bell is in the house tonight. And I'm delighted to have her on. And she's talking about politics and the importance of getting out the vote. She's talking about the role that African American women will play in this upcoming election. In addition to that, she is a spokesperson for AARP. I'm delighted to have Regina Bell joining us. But first, my opening observations. The President of the United States caught in a lie about the coronavirus. You see, he spoke with investigative journalist Bob Woodward about coronavirus back in February, in which he revealed on a series of taped interviews, some 9 hours to be exact, that he, quote, I wanted to always play it down, talking about the coronavirus, realizing that it was far worse and definitely more deadly than any flu. Yet he chose to play it down. He also talked to Bob Woodward about systemic racism in the wake of George Floyd, acknowledging and admitting that he believes systemic racism in America is real. Yet when asked about white privilege, he explained that Bob Woodward must be drinking the Kool-Aid. Mr. President, you can't have it both ways. Leadership requires that we speak to the problem, we address it, and we use our influence to lead people to be a greater nation. I'm reminded of what Julia Jackson, the mother of Jacob Blake, the 29-year-old man shot in the back 7 times, who is now paralyzed because of that police shooting. I'm reminded what she stated to all Americans about systemic racism and about coming together as a nation. She said, America is great when people behave greatly. That goes for the President of the United States, members of Congress, our faith community, all of our communities. It's time we behave greatly because the circumstances that we're confronted with today demand great leadership. And those are my opening observations. So these revelations about President Trump are quite damning, and joining me now is the president and CEO of the National Newspaper Publishers Association and the Black Press USA, Dr. Benjamin Chavis. Doc, this is not surprising to many of us who have followed the president for many years before he even became president, to know that he is prone to exaggeration, embellishment, and flat out lying. Even in my interview with him, there were things that he said that were skeptical and faced with a degree of skepticism. But this is more revealing. What's your response to the fact that he has revealed as early as March 19th that coronavirus was indeed a deadly threat to America, yet he chose to downplay it?
And I think what it reveals, Kelly, to answer your question, is that the president is a transactional business leader. His concern was the economy, not the public health of the nation. And he decided to diminish his, it's interesting, on one hand, he diminishes issues. On the other hand, he escalates issues. So, you know, the whole thing about immigration was escalated. The whole thing about voting now by mail, it was escalated. He says he doesn't want to start a panic. Where he doesn't want to start a panic about things he doesn't like, but he does want to start a panic about things he does like. And so I think that he is a transactional guy. I think a lot of people who voted for him knew that he was not going to be a traditional politician. And I think that these latest revelations come from, as we'd say in the Black community, come from the horse's mouth. You know, and so now people have to evaluate as we move into the stretch now of the election. We have 50 some days to the election. And some early voting has already started in my home state of North Carolina and other places. So I think that the voters will make the ultimate decision come this November, between now and November. I think, I don't want to be a prophet, Kelly, but I don't think we've seen the worst yet. I think there's more going to come out.
Dr. Benjamin Chavis, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for weighing in on this important topic. And obviously, we'll be doing a lot more talking between now and the election and beyond. But you're so right. We've got to really circle the wagons and build our community, not exclusively, but inclusively. And it takes blacks, it takes whites, just as it did during the civil rights era, to get this through and accomplish that dream that Dr. King talked about. Appreciate
Absolutely.
you, sir.
God bless. Thank you, Kelly.
All right, back with more after this. So welcome back to the program. I am delighted, and in fact, I consider it an honor to have the one and only Regina Bell on the program tonight. Regina, it's so good to see you. Thank you for joining us. There are so many accolades and superlatives to describe you, but what I love about you is that you are just you, Regina Bell, unapologetically faithful and doing your thing, the right thing, by the way, with music and everything else that
Thank
you're doing.
you. Thank you. It's so great to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Well, the occasion that you're here is because you were part of a wonderful program with AARP, particularly in Michigan, where the sisters have gotten together and friends and sisters are having a conversation that counts, talking about Get Out the Vote 2020. How important is that? I've always stated on this show that Black women, they matter, and that their vote will be pivotal this year.
Yeah. It's really important. I would look at it from the standpoint of my home growing up. And, my father was a truck driver. My mom was a meat wrapper, but my mom was the main nurturer in the house. And so she was the one who was responsible for equipping us, me and my brother, for what we needed for the world. My father was behind the scenes, certainly, and a strong factor. But my mom was in your face. She was the one who impressed upon us the importance of things and even down to our diet, So she was the one preparing us. So as Black women, and that's my experience, and that's also the experience that I kind of carry on with my own children when they were growing up, that, my husband made sure that the house was straight. My husband made sure that he had a presence in my children's lives. But I was the one responsible for nurturing them, not just from the standpoint of, the physical nutrition, but I was the one who went to the schools and did all those different things. I'm the one who, outside of their teachers, because teachers play a big role in our children's lives, but I'm the one outside of their teachers who impress upon them the beauty of who they are and the power in their voices. And so I think as Black women, we have a serious responsibility as part of our village. So all of us may not have birth children, but we're connected to a village.
That's so important, and especially now more than ever, because as so many artists like yourself have stated, this is indeed a critical year, and people should get out and vote as if their lives depended on it. Now,
Absolutely.
a lot of that is due to the coronavirus pandemic that has disproportionately impacted the African American community. And for the reasons you just stated, Black women are keenly aware of how important this vote is because of seeing how systemic issues have affected our community. So because of that, I want to ask you about the breaking news about the president talking to famed journalist Bob Woodward about systemic racism and also about the coronavirus. Let's start with the coronavirus. When you heard him saying to Bob Woodward on that tape that he knew that coronavirus was more deadly than the flu, and yet he chose to downplay it. What was your, and what is your reaction to that?
Kelly, to be honest with you, I just wasn't surprised.
Right.
And I think that in itself is disappointing. I think you hold such a high office, and so you have a great accountability to the people, you have a great accountability to the office, and I think he's disappointing in both aspects. You know, when you think about the numbers of people who have lost their lives, and you know, I don't know what the result would have been had they had preparation, but now we'll never know. And so the point of the matter is, you didn't give anybody a chance. You didn't give anybody an opportunity to suit up, to do better, to, you know, practice social distancing a lot earlier. You didn't give an opportunity for people to see it as urgent, to the point where it may not have spread the way it has. And if I'm listening to our scientists, which I look as the modern day or present day prophets, you know, they talk a lot about if we would have, you know, so meaning that if we had the masks on earlier, if we had shut down earlier, if we had practiced social distancing earlier, if we had taken this whole thing so much more serious earlier, the chances are that we would have saved hundreds of thousands of lives, because now we're almost at the 200,000 mark.
Absolutely. And of course, the prediction is that if we don't get this right, we could face as many as 400,000 lives between now and January. I'm talking to Regina Bell, Grammy-winning Regina Bell, the icon of music that so many people love and admire. And we're talking about some substantive issues, because there's a lot on her heart and her mind as it relates to AARP's program about having a conversation that counts for 2020. When we return, we'll talk to her about that systemic racial issue and how that's impacting our community. All that and more next. Welcome back. So I'm talking to Regina Bell, and what a delight it is to have you. And while we're talking about some serious matters right now, I just want everyone to know that we will get into what you're doing musically, because you've got a hot new song out. We want to talk about that as well. But before we get there, let's stay on the topic that's very serious for you as an African-American woman, and just as a person of the United States who's proud of your country, yet you realize that our country needs to grow beyond these systemic racial issues that has divided us in the midst of this pandemic. The president was asked by Bob Woodward, what would you say about white privilege? And his response was that you're drinking the Kool-Aid, Bob Woodward, basically stating that white privilege does not exist. Yet he went on to state that in the wake of George Floyd, he admits that systemic racism does exist. I mean, Regina, you can't have it both ways, right?
You cannot have it both ways. You can't sit on both sides of the fence and, you know, expect people not to throw rocks. And at the end of the day, whether you want to recognize it or whether you want to face up or own up, it's here. It's been here. It has not gone anywhere. And the saving grace is to our even confronting it right now is this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, for the fact that we have phones now with cameras, you know, it's just everybody is on the news now, you know, and you just never know where you're going to be on the news. And so, again, it's disconcerting, it's disappointing. And, you know, I want to keep it, I don't want to say things that I really feel in my brain about that whole commentary, because I have a 28-year-old son. And, you know, I mean, I'm concerned about all my children, my girls. You think about Breonna Taylor and so on and such and so forth. I think about all of them, but I'm especially concerned about my son. when he goes out, because the world does not love Black American males. They just don't. And so looking at that from that standpoint and hearing the president of the United States make statements like that, whereas, you know, yeah, racial inequality does exist, but, you know, am I living off white privilege? You're drinking the Kool-Aid. That those two things, that's an oxymoron.
Yeah.
It either is or it isn't, you know? And so, you know, it's upsetting. And it's not even logical. So that's the other piece to it. It's just, but it's more of the same, right? So how can you be but so disappointed? How can you be but so hurt? Because we've been hearing this from day one. You know, when you see masses of people rioting against Black people simply because of the color of their skins, and you call them good people, you know, and not taking into consideration what is going on, and a race of people are being discriminated against simply because of their color. You know, why doesn't that bother you? Why are you able to sleep at night? What gives you the okay in your spirit and in your mind that it's okay to keep a race of people down simply because of their color? That still gets beyond me.
We're coming back with more of my interview with Regina Bell right after the break. You know, you're astute on history, particularly Black history. When you look at the history of our community and all that we've had to go through, where do we go from here? I mean, we're at a critical juncture, a point of inflection in our country. And as Dr. King stated, Regina, where do we go from here, community or chaos?
Well, that's our decision. That's our choice. That's our voice. That's the power that we use. That will determine what our future will be. When I was growing up, I was never afraid of the police because the police were friends of our families. You know, they came to our high school football games. You know, they came to, I mean, literally, policemen came to, I remember going to my grandmother's house on Sunday for what we soul food, just like the movie.
Yeah.
And, there were police officers who were family friends of ours. So I was never really afraid of the police when I was a kid. And I know that sounds interesting being a person born in the 60s, but they were friends of the communities. So they knew us.
Yeah, they knew us, and they would partner with us on campaigns to help us improve our communities. But something has drastically changed. And so this conversation that you and I are having, a conversation that counts for 2020, that the AARP is sponsoring in Michigan. And Michigan is a battleground state. And
Yes.
there's a lot of sisters up there who are quite concerned about this election. And they're telling people, you better get out the vote. But in addition to that, Regina, they're also saying you better sign up for this census so that we have a full accounting of our representation in this country. How important is that?
Well, we've got to stop taking things for granted and leaving it to somebody else to do our jobs. We got to sign up to be represented. And that, when it comes down to it, that's the power that we have not, and that's on us, that we have not, I don't believe, historically used as a unit, as a village. I speak up every chance that I get. Like I said, it doesn't just affect America. It affects me in my house. It affects me and my children. It affects me and my husband. It affects me and my mom, my brother. So it reaches, it has arms. And if we don't do something about our situation, if we don't speak out against it, if we don't fill out these censuses to let folk know that we are here, then, we are partially to blame as to how this turns out. And so, you know, we see stuff wrong. I think I think we have to jointly work together. That's why I'm so excited to be a part of AARP, because I'm a part of a voice. I'm a part of an organization that is taking a stand to say, hey, we are, I'm sorry, pissed off. And to say it from the South, we ain't finna take this no more. Things have got to change.
Yeah.
But they can't change unless we stand up, get up off our couches. I call it in the church, I say, get up off your Holy Ghost, do nothing, and make sure that folk understand that the power lies within us all. Somebody said to me the other day, one raindrop may not be much, but when a flood comes, it can take out a whole community.
Yeah.
So it takes the flood. It takes the masses of us to be concerned, to care, to get angry, and to use all of those forces to make a change.
Yeah, and in the midst of getting angry, make sure that we're causing some good trouble, not sinning, and not getting violent, but causing some good trouble to stir
Well,
things up.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But there has to be some trouble. And with that trouble, God rest his soul, my friend and my brother, the one who smiles so great, Congressman John Lewis. He was, the whole thing of trouble was, it wasn't so much that it was trouble, but it seemed like trouble on the opposing end. Yeah. And so sometimes you got to do the thing that's not popular. You got to do the thing that's going to make you less liked. You got to do the thing that may put you in a place of obscurity. But if it's right, then that is the thing that you have to do. And at some point, you just have to believe that God will bless that enough so that other people will see your good works and saw that you were courageous enough to stand up when nobody else would. And it just takes the one. It just takes the one person to stand up and say, you know what, she's right. You know what, he's right. We got to do something. Yeah. And it's not going to take just Black people standing up, African Americans. It's going to take the masses of white people to stand up as well, because it's something about when I say that I have been dealt a bad deal, but then when somebody on that looks like the opposing force on the other side, when they say, yes, she has, all of a sudden now it brings light from a whole nother place.
We're talking to Regina Bell. She is a mother, a wife, a champion of hope, and a spokesperson for AARP. And she is an Grammy Award-winning singer, such an incredible talent. And when we come back, we'll talk just a little bit more about the serious side of her and how that's even coming through her music and your whole purpose, which is to light up the world that's filled with darkness. Back with more of Regina Bell after this. Welcome back to the program. So, earlier, Regina, you were talking about Congressman John Lewis, a civil rights icon, yeah. Who, of course, did so much in this nation, the youngest man to speak in 1963 during the March for Jobs and Freedom there in Washington, along with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and how they were just trailblazers. And in many ways, you have been closely associated with him. Yeah. You sang for, I think, his 75th birthday. Yes. And you also marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge with him. Tell me what that was like to walk with your friend, John Lewis, and what all of us should be engaging in since his death.
It's one thing, I can honestly say, it's one thing to study history, but it's another thing to actually meet the people who made it. Meeting John Lewis was so eye-opening. He was so giving, because he took time to just talk to me, because, of course I had a zillion questions, and he just talked to me about the importance of speaking out. He really emphasized what he meant in terms of the good trouble syndrome. So having an opportunity to talk to him and hear him speak about it as passionately in, like 4 or 5 years ago, like it had just happened, was so illuminating for me. It let me know just how much he really cared about the plight of not just African Americans, but of America in general. And just how much he cared about people.
Yeah, quite amazing. Speaking of that, you just reminded me of when you're talking about going on to that next dimension in life. Chadwick Boseman, the passing of a young man who was giving so much to people, all the while struggling with colon cancer. As a spokesperson for AARP, you know about the care that has to go into caring for loved ones who are ill. You've gone through it yourself. As you reflect on Chadwick Boseman and the legacy that he leaves behind, in fact, I think one of his statements was that when he faces God, he would like to hear God say, he would like to tell God that he left all of his talent here and that he gave it all, every gift that he was given. How does it strike you to see a young man like that make so much sacrifice and yet continue to strive to make the world better?
Ooh, that I don't know, that just hits me so hard, to know that he was struggling the way he was. I was a caregiver for my father before he left us in March. And so I'm not a stranger to that struggle. And to see all of the work that he left with us, and to know a little bit about the background of what cancer does to you, the not wanting to eat and the days of not feeling well and the losing of weight and the realizing your mortality every day as each day grows and you get sicker. Looking at Chadwick Boseman, it brings a whole nother light to me as to what he was dealing with and still working and still giving us what he gave us, something to hold on to. Nothing but love, nothing but love for him. Prayers for his family. Because of what he gave to us, I know that his family's going to miss him. But I'm thankful that God gave him to us for the 43 years, I believe it was, that he was here, because he left us with something, and not just the legacy of movies, but he left us with something to show us that in the African-American family, the African-American village, that resilience is a big part of how we still stand. It's a big part of, knowing that we've been hit from every aspect, north, south, east, and west, and yet still turn out excellence. Oh my gosh, he is a testament to our young people of the work that lies ahead of them, of not just doing something just to do it, but to give your very best. I mean, he made the statement that I want to leave all my, but he actually did it.
He actually did it.
He left us with the very best of him. And so I would say that his life stands to us today as an example that, you can't have excuses not to give excellence. If he didn't use excuses and he's fighting cancer, then I'm sorry, because you don't feel good today does not give you a license to not show up. Showing up is everything. It is everything.
I'm talking to Regina Bell. When we come back, we're going to talk about her music. She's got a really, really great song out, and we want to hear all about it. That's next. Welcome back. So I've been having a delightful conversation, a sincere, serious conversation with Regina Bell because the times are serious. But Regina, you've also lifted our spirits not only in your spoken word as a minister of the gospel, and now you're still studying the gospel, and I think that's so refreshing because the gospel is the good news for this bad news world. But you're also such an incredible singer. You've been singing since you were a child, starting there in New Jersey, and just doing so much. And you've got a new project out. I could go back through all of your other projects if I could, and Baby Come to Me, and I mean the list goes on. But this new project, Freedom, it's so timely for today, and you've got a good friend who speaks on it as well. Tell me about that.
Dr. Iyanla Van Zant, she was gracious to me to allow us to use her gift for this project, Freedom. It was already finished when she heard it, and we were performing together honoring Maestro Richard Smallwood, doing his song, Angels Watching Over Me. And she did a spoken word part to the song, and I sang the song. And so we shared a dressing room together, and I let her hear the song, and she told me that she wanted to be a part of it and told me that she would. You know, of course, you think you have that conversation and that's the end of that conversation and you move on, right?
Right.
So we have a conversation after that, and she says, I told you I wanted to be on, the project. And I'm looking like, for real, for real? And she says yes, and I have to come to Atlanta to tape my show. And I thought I might, go in the studio with you and do it. And that's exactly what she did. She was a little upset with me because of me showing up a few minutes late, and Dr. Van Zant doesn't play that. But I was late because of traffic. Traffic is horrendous in Atlanta, and I should have anticipated that, but I apologize yet again for the 111th time, Dr. Van Zant, but thank you anyway. And I didn't even know I needed her gift until we heard it with her on there, and it was everything. She was amazing. And alongside her voice is my bishop, Bishop Kenneth Paramore. So he and I are exchanging different African-American and even some African historians and icons at the end, just highlighting them, just their names, so that, when people hear the song, they might be encouraged to go out and find out who is this person, So it's a song that I wrote maybe 10 years ago with my partner in crime in music, Chris Walker. I wrote the song actually for a museum that was opening up, and they didn't have any money to come and wanted me to come and sing. And I was like, well, I can't pay to come and sing. You got to pay me something. so he found, the young man was so resourceful. He found a grant, and I don't even know what kind of grant this was, but the grant basically said that they had a song that represented the museum, that, they would give them X number of dollars. That's where he got the money to be able to pay for me to come. And I came, and so the song was sitting in the cans, and then Trayvon Martin happened, and this happened, and then that happened, and that happened. And I was like, okay, enough. Music is what I do. Let's make this song, public. Let's put it out there, put it on iTunes, let people get a chance to hear what I really feel in my heart. And I really feel that our ancestors, our foremothers and forefathers have done so much, and they're looking at us now to continue to fight.
Yeah.
And so the song Freedom, that's what it pretty much reflects. It reflects the sentiments of our ancestors, of our foremothers and forefathers, and all that they have sacrificed and given up and laid down their lives, and the dues that they paid, just so I can walk in the front doors of the establishments in which I frequent that I sing in, you know? So freedom is a reflection of all of that and so much more.
I am loving my interview with Regina Bell, and we're coming back with more of the superstar right after this. Before I let you go, I want to thank you for the time. We come back. I'd like to have you back on to talk about this again, because it's refreshing to hear the things that you're saying, your concerns and your passion for everyone. And you know, what's your prayer for America?
My prayer for America is for us not to just say the words, we need to heal. You know, my prayer for America is take action to heal. Do something to heal. You know, embrace the thing you're afraid of, because your fear is causing more pain. Your fear is causing more violence. Your fear and your ignorance. And that's from all of us. But if we don't stand up, if we don't, the Bible says that we perish for a lack of knowledge. A lot of the times, if you simply face the thing that you're afraid of, a lot of the times you'll find you're not really that afraid of it. Sometimes we're afraid of things, or we don't face things because it's habit. Habit is always easier than risk. Risk means you have to step out on faith to believe that there's going to be something different on the other side of what I've been afraid of all this time. And so my prayer for America is that we will step up and take some risks, that we will venture out to find out what our neighbor is like, to find out more about the cultures of other people that we live around, that we work with, that we go to the grocery store with. And because I'm on aisle 8 now, you're going to be on aisle 6. We're going to change that whole mentality. That's my prayer for America, because until we do that, then all of the other things that we're talking about on a much grander scale can never really happen.
Regina Bell, love you. Thank you for being a part of this.
I love you, Kelly. Thank you. And stop making me cry.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to make you laugh before we end. I'm going to end it playing your song, Freedom. So, you know, hey, just shouting. See?
Kelly, thank you. And I want to thank AARP for giving me a platform and a voice to be able to speak even louder than Regina Bell would speak on my own. So, you know, AARP is a really great resource for those of us who are 50 and over. And it's not just about caregiving. You know, we look at AARP as, you know, well, that's the old aspect of life and I got time to be there. No, 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 no. You don't know ARP, as my boss, my president, Joanne Jenkins says. You know, there's so much involved with AARP, and it's a plethora of resources, from going back to school, you know, when you thought you couldn't. I'm 57, I'm back in school getting my master's, to, you know, starting your own business. And AARP has so many resources that you can reach for to help you in all of these different avenues, and caregiving, you know, so it's a really great lifeline, if you will, for us.
That's awesome. It's a whole new world.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew.
Come on.
But now from way up here, it's crystal clear that now with Kelly I'm in a whole new world with you.
Oh, come on now. You just melted my heart. Regina Bell on the Kelly Wright Show. Love you. God bless you.
You
God
too,
bless
my
you.
dear.
All right, my friend. We'll be back with more after this. And welcome back to the program. I want to thank Dr. Benjamin Chavis, and I especially want to thank Regina Bell for gracing us with her presence and sharing her insights. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out to watch. And as I leave you with my final word, it's based on Regina Bell's new song, Freedom, which features Dr. Ayanna Van Zant. The lyrics are powerful. Here's an excerpt. We are more than just a slave ship coming to America, and we owe it all to those who have lived and died so that we can be more. Think about that as you exercise your freedom to vote. Think about that as you consider your freedom of thought, of mind, and heart, and soul. Hopefully, we've been righted, ignited, and united to keep spreading not fear, but faith and love and freedom and peace. Good night, everyone. We leave you now with Regina Bell's Freedom.
Chronicle is rich, it runs deeper than the ocean. So please don't forget, it's our history and our legacy. We are more than just a slave ship coming to America. And we owe it all to those who have lived and died so that we could be more. Oh, Mama prayed and cried for. Daddy stuck his neck out for. It was the freedom to live for every man, woman, boy, and girl. I dare you to believe in their visions and their dreams. Nobody greater than yourself if you can see. And the fathers of old would say about us now. Would they be proud of us? Would they scream at us? Just hang their heads down. Take a look around at all that they've achieved. They did it for you and they did it for me. The dark continent cries, the innocent people die. Was it all in vain? Gotta change the way we think. I'm talking about freedom. 'Cause we can be what we wanna be. And it starts inside. Bring the vision alive so we all can be.
When you look around at all the examples of African Americans, you'll see the grave impossibility of America ever being beautiful without us. Yes, it was on our backs, through our labor, our creativity, our gifts, and our talents. But most of all, the strength of whom and whose we are as a people. We never gave up on the audacious freedom to simply